peace be upon you. After President Donald Trump launched a trade war against our neighbors Mexico and Canada, our friends in Europe, and our enemy China, he is now backing down from some decisions. In today's episode, we will look at what has happened regarding the trade war. We will examine something very important about Europe and its situation in terms of debt. We will look at the financial markets. Are we heading towards a stage of severe economic recession and collapse, or a stage of historic inflation? Important questions, and the episodes will begin. The picture will become clear to us day after day, and we will begin with the commercial war, which was launched by President Donald Trump. Whoever did not watch our last episodes, I hope you go and watch the last 3 episodes so you understand what is going on. Of course, the American president launched the trade war, then backed down about 2 days ago. We talked about him in the automotive sector. The CEO of Ford and General Motors spoke to him and told him Trump should remove the Republican taxes. It will affect cars almost as much as cars. Car prices will rise by more than $10,000. These Republican taxes will add more than 25% to the price of cars. So what did the president do? He immediately backed down, yesterday or Friday. The decision is very important. He withdraws from Mexico, then a few hours later he withdraws from agricultural materials for Mexico and for Canada. Now he also returns and withdraws again for another month. He talks about the Republican taxes returning to the April stage. Frankly, it has become what it is, this White House. We can call it the White House because every week different decisions are made. The important question here is whether President Donald Trump will make these decisions using cards, perhaps negotiation, or perhaps negotiation again, or is it perhaps poor planning and he backs down when he sees the great damage coming to the economy? I honestly think it is the second one, but the damage of backing down is not beneficial. I mean, what does he make decisions and take risks and then back down? But his backing down shows something. It shows weakness, and it shows other things that will harm the American economy and American companies, as I will show you. Of course. Canada, what is the rule that you're saying you are backing down, Trump? At the same time, we will not stop the phase of boycotting American products out this say. You see that a large part of the supermarkets now carry Canadian-made products. There is also a large boycott of American products in many Scandinavian countries because of the issue of the boycott of many American products. If we look at Tesla, Tesla may be more controversial than just American politics. It may be more controversial than Elon Musk's actions, Elon Musk's politics, and interference in European elections. But if we look at, for example, Elon Musk and the very large boycott that is going on regarding the car. In Germany, sales are expected to drop by 76%, in Austria by 72%, in China by about 50%, in Norway by about 50%, in Denmark by 50%, in Sweden by 42%, and in France, in solidarity with Canada, sales are projected to drop by 26%. Even in Canada, they say sales will drop by about 70%. Because of what's happening, we also saw Starlink halt its contract in Canada. On top of that, President Trump is indeed backing down, and he isn't calculating his cards correctly, but he is causing significant damage to American companies, as you can see. Moreover, he is causing significant damage to the financial markets. The financial markets always prefer stability over instability, which is why we see the VIX index, known as the fear index, rising dramatically from 14 to 22. Just look at the volatility in the market. It's more fluctuating than during the pandemic. Imagine the uncertainty he is causing and the instability in the markets. If we look at all the indicators, if we look at people's feelings regarding the economy, it is very low. If we look at people's spending, it is very low out of fear of what is coming. If we look at expectations regarding inflation in the next 5 years, it is high. If we look at product prices, it is also high. Everything from the decisions that President Donald Trump is taking in the trade war, it negatively impacts the American markets, the American economy, American companies, and also global companies. If we look at the past week, for the American markets, it was an extremely bad week. If we examine all sectors except for the basic materials sector, which includes things like gold, silver, and uranium, the raw materials sector was the only one that saw an increase. Everything else was in sharp decline. If we look at the heat map, the most important companies have only seen declines this week. Defensive stocks like Walmart and Costco are down. Tesla is down 10%, Amazon is down 6%, and Meta is down about 7%. Nvidia has entered a bear market, dropping nearly 10% in just 1 week. The entire tech sector has fallen, and the energy sector has also dropped significantly. From my perspective, all of this is likely to continue declining. The plan that we always mention is that the American president wants to create disturbances to slightly bring down the American markets. This might make the Federal Reserve consider lowering interest rates, but inflation is on the rise. The other thing we always talk about, Mussi's refinancing and the upcoming financing of $10 trillion in debt for the US government. Look what happened to the 10-year bonds. They started rising in a week. It was never good for the American economy because the market started falling and the bonds, as you can see, started rising significantly. They reached 4.1, and when they started to decline, you can see the 10-year bonds rising again. And this is a significant issue that the US government needs to lower interest rates to manage its debt and avoid high interest payments. Today, the interest payments or the interest alone that the government has to pay on loans exceed any budget for the US government. But we can say that the story is starting to become clearer. You get this strange twist that complicates the entire scenario. We said that America's main target is China. There are significant pressures on Mexico to impose tariffs on China. So far, between these decisions, we saw in the Panama Canal, and we talked about it in the last episode, that the Panama Canal has entered the BlackRock system and purchased a number of ports in the port of Panama on the right and left side, meaning above and below, and bought it for $23 billion from the Hong Kong company. And we said that it might be the Panama government that pressured Hong Kong to sell. Now see, in light of the very bad relationship between America and Canada and President Donald Trump's withdrawal on the same day, what news comes that will confuse you? All of China is imposing 100% Republican taxes on Canada. It's like a movie, frankly, Dan, and he tells you that they put almost 100% on agricultural materials and meat materials. Here's the question. Why did China do this? China says that it is a response to what Canada did in 2024 when it imposed taxes on some Chinese products, such as car companies like BYD. The question that is timely is, why is it timely here? For example, was President Donald Trump able to pressure Canada to impose customs taxes on China? And China is now anticipating accidents before Canada imposes them. I honestly don't know, but I can tell you that China might be using this card to pressure Canada to get closer to it. Or is it anticipating events? It thinks that Canada has already agreed with President Trump and will impose customs duties on China. So what did China say? I will anticipate it, not here. My hand will be stronger when I do that. Honestly, it's a strange and amazing series, but this is how the narrative gets tangled up. And overall, we believe that the Canadian-American relationship will not improve unless the Canadian-Chinese relationship worsens. Then this strategy will be applied globally. Of course, controlling Canada and Mexico is much easier because they are America's neighbors. The next step for America is to try to destabilize China's close allies in the West, meaning in more countries like Vietnam, like Malaysia, like Indonesia, and the BRICS system in general. Thailand is trying here, but I don't think it will succeed. It might succeed with its neighbors, but once it goes beyond that neighborly pattern, I believe the task will be difficult. We move to another pattern. We move to the American-European relationship and a change in the scenario. President Donald Trump, after all the indicators, give you the impression that he has entered an upcoming phase of peace. President Donald Trump threatens President Putin and says, "Daddy, I will impose taxes on you. First of all, I will impose sanctions on the banks and sanctions." He does not know the difference between sanctions on the banks and sanctions because they are the same. But the Jordanian, meaning Russia, also has historical sanctions, says, "I will impose customs duties on Russia." And from the point of view of trade today between Russia and America, in light of the sanctions and taxes and everything, it does not exceed $1 billion. So no matter how much taxes you impose, it will not be affected. So it is not known. The pattern and purpose of this tweet is that he said when he separates the phase of peace, if it doesn't happen, he is angry that Russia is likely to escalate more and more. Of course, you halted the war and stopped the arms supply to Ukraine, so Russia will definitely push further in what has happened. But the most important question is, what is the purpose of this tweet at the same time? The European Union is increasing the caliber, trying to make more threats to Ukraine. We are talking about sending von der Leyen saying that we will deliver weapons to Ukraine and support President Zelensky. So where did you get the weapons from? We saw that your weapons budgets are more and better. European countries do not even spend 3% of their budget on defense. So where do you get the weapons? Of course, there is another threat that we will use. Russian assets in Europe. Approximately 200 billion, and this is a very dangerous card. I mean, talking about it more and more is dangerous because all the people, what will China do? Will it start withdrawing its assets? All the countries of the world, if they sensed it? This can be called a phase of asset confiscation. Other countries will start to engage in this, and this is what China is doing today. China has begun to create a new financial system to avoid these scenarios in case there's anger and they start seizing funds. This is a dangerous phase, as they are saying they will seize or freeze about 200 billion of Russian assets. At the same time, of course, Germany, being in an economic recession, is proposing to use $500 billion in financial packages for the defense sector. Everyone knows that Germany is a conservative country, but Germany, from a point of view, means the relationship, if we look at the German-Russian relationship, is mutual, meaning they can benefit each other greatly. Russia is one of the best oil-producing countries. It has cheap natural gas. Germany is one of the best industrial countries in the world. You can say where between the two countries you don't need any oil. The situation in Germany gives you the impression that there is a significant problem. Electricity prices, oil prices, and gas prices are all high. Energy costs have increased dramatically. Energy prices have nearly multiplied 6 times compared to the past. Energy prices, if we compare them, have increased about 3 times since 2019. And the industrial sector in Germany is being destroyed day by day. That's why you see a recession. However, Germany only cares about using debt at a high level. Germany is known for its very conservative economy. Now they are saying that a lot of money will be raised in bonds. Look at the German bonds. In just 5 days, you can see how much the 10-year German bonds have risen. It gives the impression that interest rates are rising significantly, and debt is also increasing a lot, which means we might be heading towards a phase of weakened purchasing power. In light of this, look at the amount of debt. I mean, look at how much debt is increasing. America is increasing by approximately 11% from 123 of the GDP. This is only in 24. We haven't even entered 25 yet to 134. Britain is the same. Look at Italy. All the countries are increasing. Germany, of course, are increased today. The German plan has always been to reduce debt, but with the new government, it might increase from 64% to the 80s. Canada is also increasing its debt. This all gives you the impression of where the budgets are going. They are being directed towards defense companies instead of sitting down and making long-term agreements for peace and avoiding war, especially since America today wants to distance itself from war and focus on peace. But the European countries, no. If we see all the European arms companies rising to historic heights, look at the time when the peace phase came. Look at the arms companies, because the rulers of Europe today want the war to continue. Even the American companies are rising, Lockheed Martin. When, for example, a government like Germany comes and says, we want our independence from America, and suddenly you find $500 billion and it all goes to arms, funds are going to American arms companies. Is a peace phase coming? The situation is strange. We are in a dangerous phase between recession and collapse, changing financial patterns and public debt while facing historic inflation. Countries are accumulating debt significantly. Everything seems in opposition. There's massive inflation, meaning you don't want to hold cash, you want to invest in stocks and real estate. We are in a recession, economic weakness, and debt explosion, offering hope for the financial system. But having cash for investment is the best option. This is the difficulty ahead. Having cash in your portfolio today is dangerous and a collapse. To change the financial pattern and public debt while at the same time experiencing historic inflation. We are seeing all countries using money and accumulating debt significantly. So here's the question. Everything is in opposition. There's massive inflation and hyperinflation, which means you don't want to hold cash. You want to invest all your money in stocks, in real estate, no matter the prices. We are in a phase of recession, economic weakness, and a debt explosion. This gives you some hope for what's coming in the financial system, but at the same time, having cash for investment is the best option. This is the difficulty of what's ahead. I still believe that having cash in your portfolio today is the most dangerous thing. To explain what cash is, I can tell you that cash refers to the money that is in the bank. However, there are many ways to invest cash conservatively to protect yourself from what's coming, whether it's historic inflation or a historic economic recession. Of course, in an Islamic way, avoiding bonds and so on. But real estate and other investments are important in that regard. So, you need to have wisdom in making decisions. This is one of the most important things during such a difficult period. God willing, you benefited from today's episode. For those who want to learn more about investment matters, we have a personal course with over 20 hours of educational content on how to build an investment portfolio. We teach you the mechanism of long-term investing and how to create a portfolio that lasts for many years, and how we analyze financial statements, how we look at things in a financial and scientific way. You can find the details in the description, and we have a brief period of discounts. You can find the code in the description. I hope you benefited from today's episode. Good luck, thank you, and goodbye.